What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we have episode 36 of the Vikings franchise, and we are back in the offseason once again. After that rough defeat to the Seahawks in Minnesota in the wild card round, we find ourselves back trying to figure out what's next to get this team over the hump and get us back to the Super Bowl like we were 2 seasons ago, and hopefully bring home that trophy. So I have a lot of work to do for this offseason. Of course, as you guys know, I have I have my profile on every single team. I have spent the last 2 days going through and re-signing, deciding on players to cut. I made a whole list for free agency. I made a whole 32 list of team needs. I'm going to draft for all the teams. It's going to be a long process, but I'm hoping that this is really the offseason where this franchise can come to life, because I'm going to make some tough decisions for teams, not only the Vikings, but also the rest of the teams. We're going to see some different faces, and hopefully it works out. I just wanted to take a quick minute to recap the playoffs after we were eliminated. Of course, we lost to the Seahawks 21-14 in the wild card round. You can see the Cowboys ended up beating the Eagles, and the Washington football team ended up beating the Carolina Panthers to move on to the division round, which is where we saw the 49ers and Washington face off, along with Dallas and Seattle. Dallas and Washington make it out, and then eventually Washington makes it to the Super Bowl to eventually lose to the Kansas City Chiefs. Looking over at the other side of things, it looks like the majority of the teams still pushing forward the most are the teams with the veterans. Zachary Farr and the Dolphins fell in the wild card round. Daniel Matias and the Colts fell. Herbert leading the Chargers against the Bills. Some would say that's an upset, and I'd have to agree. But of course, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs barreled their way all the way to another Super Bowl. Before we get started on the trades, I wanted to take a quick look at the retirements and see who is leaving this franchise forever. First, we start off Taylor Lewan, the right tackle for the Titans. Gabe Jackson, Greg Zuerlein, the kicker. That's surprising to see a kicker retire after 13 seasons. Demario Davis, our veteran linebacker, he has decided to hang it up, so we will need to replace him this year. Cameron Jordan decided to hang it up. Akeem Hicks, Matthew Stafford, Malik Jackson, Darius Slay Jr., Lane Taylor, Trent Murphy, Casey Hayward, Adam Thielen, fullback Michael Burton, Duvernay. Some really big names looking at this list. Taysom Hill. After 8 years, he finally realized he wasn't an actual quarterback. Jason Verrett, Derek Wolfe, James White, a lot of big names. Wow. Andy Dalton? What was his nickname? The Red Rifle or something like that? And RG3. RG3 was still playing? No. He wasn't. Was he still playing? Wow. Well, he isn't anymore. So before we get to the free agency, of course, we still have some re-signings to look at. I'm going to be honest, guys, I don't know if we're bringing back much of anybody, but let's take a look. We've already decided we're moving on from Dalvin Tomlinson, and now with his regression down to a 77, it just makes too much sense. We have Devontae Coleman, who played well above his overall. We have, of course, Markel Ware, our rookie defensive tackle from last year. It's time to move on from Dalvin Tomlinson. Laken Tomlinson did finally hit some regression, dropping down to a 78. He's now looking for a 1-year deal worth $5.24 million, and I'm still a little hesitant, but I feel like he might be our best bet at holding this line together and not having to reach in the draft for, a lineman. Xavier Woods has lowered his expectations. He was 3 years, I believe, like $15 million before we got to the offseason. Now he is asking 2 years for $6 million to come back, and that's really not too bad of a contract. But now I'm sort of wondering if he's asking for that little, if there's going to be some other guys in free agency we want to look at. Last but not least was Elijah Wilkinson, the backup right tackle. I don't think we're going to bring him back. He's a 70 overall. He's 30 years old, and he's asking for $4 million. I have a couple of guys on the practice squad that are signed now that they might not be a 70, they're like a 67, 68, but they are much cheaper than that, and I'd rather see them develop. So for sure, Elijah Wilkinson is gone. Looking at Tomlinson's regression, it looks like not one area was really hit too hard, and a lot of areas were just spread out nicely. A total of 11, which isn't too bad. And his ratings overall are still rather good. Everything is, aside from, well, it looks like pass block finesse fell a little bit. Yeah, it did. Same with run block power, which is weird. Usually you'd think it'd be one or the other, power or finesse. But his lead block is still great. His impact blocking sort of leaves some to be desired, but his awareness cannot be beat. Same with his injury. I'm worried if I don't sign him here and I try to get him in free agency, that there's going to be other teams interested and then we're not going to get a chance to re-sign him at all. I'd say let's go ahead and let's offer him what he's asking. 1 year, $5 million. It's not a whole lot to ask, and he is a very serviceable lineman. And, you know, if we do find somebody in the draft, we know he's not going to be a 78 overall. You know, we just have not seen that often unless it's a tackle, and those are the guys you have to draft super early, and I just don't see us going that early for a lineman in this draft. So we're going to offer him a 1 year, 5.24. Oh, all of that talking, I talked you up, and then you're going to turn us down anyway. Well, fine then. Fine then. All right, last person on my board here, Xavier Woods. He has been such a good safety for us over the years. Looking at his stats, you can tell that he is regressing. I mean, his zone coverage, his tackling is down, awareness is down, play rec. But his hit power stays the same, his pursuit's still the same. And honestly, if we find somebody to replace him for this upcoming season, he could be a very valuable backup for us to have. 2 years, 5.98 is really not a lot of money to offer him. A little bit lower than what he says is fair. There, let's just, we'll offer him this. At the very least, his signing bonus is 1.37, right? It's not a huge chunk of his salary. We can take a hit on that if we need to cut him. Actually, I'm just thinking, like, what if, because right now we have Metellus, we have Bynum, and of course we have Curl. And if I decide to draft somebody, I'm only going to carry 4 safeties. You know, I'm not going to be carrying, you know, 15, or I'm not going to be carrying like 4 or 5 or 5 or 6 safeties. It's going to be 4 as the max. So, oh man, I think it would be good for us to let him go. You know, I think it's time. We need a new safety. It's time. We already committed to safeties in the draft. We need to find somebody different. So for that reason, Xavier Woods is also going to free agency. So I've decided to not bring any of these guys back. Well, Tomlinson decided for us. There's one other thing that I really have to talk to you guys about that sort of just changed recently. So this screen might look different if you remember the video I did just sort of explaining the draft prospects that we were going to use this year and how we were going to do that. Now, I have a friend of mine, Mitchy Boy Gaming, who is working on another draft class. He unfortunately, he had something really cool happen in his real life that did not allow him to finish this in the same amount of time that he was hoping for initially, which that stuff happens. So I went out, I grabbed a random draft class, and I just uploaded and just replaced it, right? There's no point in us doing a custom draft class if we can't do it the right way, in my mind. And if it's going to take more time, we got plenty of more seasons to run here before this franchise is going to end. So there'll be plenty of time to start implementing these custom draft classes. So we're just going to use a Madden generated one. This is the one I did. I was thinking about not doing it because I was scared of the completion, but luckily Madden actually made it to where you hold on to your completions regardless, which is something I really like. I think that's really, really awesome. So we don't have to worry about losing on the completion that we've already had going for, positions, which is awesome, which is going to help me out tremendously. With that being said, it is a new draft class we have to learn, so we are going to have to go over this in depth today before we get to the draft. Before we go diving into the free agency, I want to take a look at our roster and see what we feel is most important to get done for, our roster and what we are looking for. So one thing that I forgot to mention, and that I didn't really notice until about, I think, the Lions game, Michael Mahan finished his hidden development situation, and he is a superstar. So now we have a superstar center to build off of for this line. I am really excited about that. And that makes me feel like I made a good decision with Bradbury. And I didn't, instead of holding on to him, I let Michael Mahan take over. And now look at what we got here on the line. That's awesome. Overall, our line looks pretty stout. The one glaring hole is right here at right guard. And honestly, guys, based off of some of the games that I've seen from him, I feel like we might want to move on from Nelson soon. I know that sounds crazy. He's a 99 overall, but I swear to God, he's the guy getting beat most of the time. Like, he always seems to be the one getting, and I know a lot of this is Madden simulation issues, right? This is AI issues, this is animation issues. I get it. But if that's the case, and we're going to have to deal with that anyway, I mean, what's the point of dealing with a guy who's got this high of a contract? So that's just something I'm thinking about. It's obviously going to save us quite a bit of money if we would do that. And now would be the time to do it. As he's 29, he's still serviceable on a lot of teams, and we could still get a really, really good draft haul for him. Plus, he is coming up on the last year of his deal. So this might be a good time to consider trading a guy like Quentin Nelson. I think I'm going to let Glover be the starting back moving forward. I know Madison had that tremendous game against the Lions, but Glover is already one overall better than him. I've been holding him off as starter for the remainder of the season, but after the rest of the season we had with Madison, I just don't see a reason to keep starting him. He hasn't really been able to, put forth as much effort, and Glover has been playing better in the limited amounts of snaps he's had, and I think it's time for us to give him a shot. We drafted him high for a reason. And I want him and Oscar Pitts to be the future. So Madison is now going to be the backup, and then Glover will take over. Receivers, I mean, I feel like we're really good at receiver, but I also feel like I want to draft another one. That's just me being me. This is what we look like right now. We got Jefferson, we have Wilcox, and we have Peoples, Whiting, and Jason Johnson down here. The only reason I'm considering this is because I've been hoarding these guys, trying to build them up. And none of them have really been able to. And I've been working on them in in my focus scouting and whatnot, or my focus training, and they're just really not moving. Taven Smith was a guy I was really hoping to build up, and he just really hasn't gone anywhere. He can't run a route to save his life. And granted, he's very young yet, but I don't know. I just don't know. I feel like we need a third guy that can really be the guy. Wait a minute. Where the heck is KJ Osborne? What in the blue? What is happening here? Okay, so apparently Madden cut KJ Osborne. It was in week 17, which is strange because I didn't even do anything in week 17. I straight simmed through those last 2 weeks because after the Lions win, we were pretty much cemented where we were going to be at the 3rd seed. So I simmed past it. And now I see that KJ Osborne was released in week 17, which makes no sense because I didn't release him. And anyway, back to what I was saying about the receivers. Even with KJ Osborne involved here, nobody is really up there. Everybody is mid-70s at best, and that's because of the TMP, which means that they're not even that good in other areas. It's just the fact that they have the TMP, like that, that morale boost and that franchise point boost, bringing them up a couple of points. So if we took this away from everybody, I mean, even Timmy Peoples is only a 78. I just think we need another guy, like a serious contender at receiver to go with Peoples and Jefferson. I feel like we need a third guy. We're good at tight end. There's not much on this offense that we really need to touch. The biggest point right now is right guard, and if we decide to move on from Quentin Nelson, we would need a replacement, of course. And we honestly might have one in Whitley. Whitley is a guy that might be able to play guard for us because he's not that good at pass protection, and he's pretty decent at run blocking. That's his best attribute, is run block finesse for us right now. That might be the ticket right there. Defensively, it's pretty much the same. We don't have that many huge holes. I'm fine rolling into the season with Ware and Coleman as our D tackles. I'm obviously fine with Hunter and Martin Jefferson. Oh, also, Randy Barrett got star dev. He got star dev. It was a breakout scenario after Hunter went down in the Lions game, and he was out for 3 weeks. He had a breakout scenario in week 17, I believe, and then he got his breakout scenario by the end of the season and the next game against the Patriots. So it was week 18. Week 18, he had the breakout scenario. Boom. Did it. Got it. Now he's star dev. So now we are definitely going to be building around him as our rotational guy, along with Hunter and Jefferson. I think our linebackers did pretty well, considering they were lower overall. Antoine Whitehead really turned it up this season. He turned into our thumper, basically, sort of our Xavier Woods, because Woods fell off a little bit. He wasn't forcing as many fumbles and big hits. Whitehead was the guy doing it again for us. So I'm happy with Whitehead. I think Alexander was pretty decent. He didn't really stand out much, but he didn't stand out in a bad way either. And Jeremy Chin was a monster. He was all over the field for us. Cameron Curl played great. Dantzler and Hughes were pretty good. Dantzler is a guy that I'm really not too big of a fan of right now. Like, he just always seems to get beat, but that's also because he's a little bit on the slower side. Also, from his season performance, Martin Jefferson earned superstar development. To see this team, just increase like this. You see, he did it this past week based off of, I believe, his season-ending stats or something like that. But to see this team start to come through, Martin Jefferson was a guy I was concerned about playing just a season ago. I was like, what is this guy's problem? Now he's an 83 overall. He's a superstar dev. It's just Antoine Whitehead. Same thing a year ago. Is this the guy for us? Now he's knocking people's heads off. It's just crazy and awesome to see this growth out of the team. Mike Hughes, I had no idea he would turn into the guy he did when I signed him. I thought he would just be a stopgap guy until we could draft somebody, and he turns into being an absolute stud. He had like 10 interceptions this year. These are the guys, of course. Oh, so Coolidge ended up taking number 3, and Barnett took number 8. So Barnett won the number 8 war. But these are going to be the guys that are going to be fighting it out for the number 2 quarterback spot next year. I don't know if I plan on bringing anybody else in. We just have Rutherford and then Paul Perry. He was the guy who was on the roster last year. Just looking at some of the guys that signed off the practice squad. Phillip Vaughn was on our practice squad. Melvin Marion is the guy I was referring to that could probably take over for Elijah Wilkinson at right tackle because, obviously he's much younger and he's already a 69. We also had Max Brandt hit away in our practice squad. Raymond Johnson. I don't remember when he got signed, but he got signed at some point. Quincy Pruitt and Tremont Thompson were a couple of guys that I found as well, just sitting on people's practice squads, so I signed them. Same with Damian Davis and Will Pittman. Not sure who is all going to make the roster, and I think Jalen Smith might be on his way out, but we'll get to that. And then Sammy Smith was also sitting on a practice squad. I ended up signing him. And this is our safeties right now. So, draft-wise, we're sitting at pick number 22. Remember, we have 2 second-round picks, a third, a fourth, a fifth, sixth, and 2 sevenths this year. I would really like to get another pick. Yes, I know. Obviously, everybody says that. But given some of the people we have on this team, like Quentin Nelson, heck, even Alexander Madison, if we're going to decide to roll with Glover, I almost wonder if it might be smart for us to try and get rid of them now as opposed to later and, get something in return for them and be able to add more pieces in the draft. We have quite a bit of room to work with as well. We have $60.8 million available to spend in free agency, which is something I'm really happy about. I know we don't need a running back, and this is just we're just going to do a quick run. We're going to do a quick rundown of the free agents so you guys can get a feel for how much change I really put on some of these teams. Jared Goff released from the Lions, Davis Mills released from the Texans. Now they have, Zach Hardiman behind Jameis Winston right now. Drew Lock, Derek Carr, Kellen Mond, Jacoby Brissett, Gardner Minshew, Carson Wentz, Trubisky, Allen, Garoppolo. A lot of guys fell off their former teams. It's going to be interesting to see where these guys go. Running backs, I feel that a lot of these guys are going to end up falling off the cliff because there's so many good running backs. Nyheim Hines, he's getting right now. I might have to adjust some of these because there's no point for the Bills to sign him. There's none. They have a running back already. Marlon Mack. This would be actually a good move. Going to the Cardinals. The Cardinals I released James Conner from the Cardinals, and they had one other guy that I don't know if he stayed or not, but he's only an 80 overall. So Marlon Mack going to the Cardinals actually makes sense. Myles Gaskin going to the Seahawks. That's another good fit, I think. James Conner. See, these guys like James Conner, I just don't know if they're going to last, Kenneth Gainwell. This guy should be getting signed way before some of these other guys. But he's also a very specific running back. 5'8", 185 pounds. He's not a guy you can run it with on second and third down. And you can see by this list that, as you go down, it's apparent as to why some of these guys are just probably going to go away and not last. I'm not sure why these guys are getting signed. Maybe money. Probably because of money. Wide receiver is going to be stacked because some of these guys could not be afforded by their current teams, specifically Keenan Allen. Between the amount he was asking, the amount the team had, and the receivers they have behind him, it just made no sense for the Chargers to offer him a contract, so I let him hit free agency. Same with Robert Woods. They added Keenan Lewis and one other young receiver last year, which means that Robert Woods was really just holding off their development. Deontay Harris, not a bad receiver, but I looked at the Raiders. Guys, they literally had nothing but 5'7" guys on their whole team. 5'7", 5'8", 5'9" receivers. Not a single dude at least 6 foot. So that's going to be a huge reclamation project for the Raiders, is getting a new receiving corps. A lot of veterans hitting free agency on the offensive line just because of drafted players that were sitting and wasting behind them that I felt needed to start. So some teams are going to get absolutely lucky who had some crappy drafting. Oh, look at that. The Texans are already interested in Tomlinson, which is weird because I'm pretty sure I just moved somebody over there to play right guard for them. I'll have to look at that. Sam Cosmi hitting the free agency market. I think that was another situation of salary cap situation. There's quite a few teams that only had like 10 million left by the time I was done with re-signs and looking at their roster. Steven Tuitt hits J.J. Watt, Matthew Ioannidis, Jadeveon Clowney, Frank Clark, Greg Russo. This is going to be a big one. Yeah, Greg Russo hitting free agency. They drafted a couple of guys, and he just doesn't even fit their scheme. A couple of really nice players at D-tackle as well. Outside linebacker Shaquille Barrett, he was the guy, he got hurt during the season for the rest of the year. And at that point, it just didn't even make sense for the team to re-sign him. They went a full season without him. They don't know what they're getting anymore after he comes back. So he was cut into he was let go from the Buccaneers. Joe Schobert, the guy who played a little bit too well against us, is back in free agency. Levante David, Nick Bolton, Bobby Wagner. This is probably one of the key free agents this year. The Chiefs had 3 middle linebackers. They are now playing a 43, and they had no money. So Nick Bolton falls to free agency. 78 overall, 25-year-old middle linebacker. He's a guy that I might be interested in, but now that we have gotten Alexander, I don't think I want him anymore. I knew that he was going to hit free agency for a while now just because of the fact of what the Chiefs were going through financially wise. A lot of veteran corners hitting free agency as well this year. Again, due to the issue with, just drafted players ready to take over. So it's going to be interesting to see how many of these guys really get signed and how many just fall. Oh, Monty Brown. Okay. Might have to take a swing at that guy. Not too great of safeties, but a few decent ones. Taylor Rapp, he's not bad. 80 overall, 27 years old. Richie Grant, 27, a 77. The veteran Micah Hyde, the former Bill. Jimmy Ward. Devin McCourty, longtime Patriot. He's in free agency. I don't know how this guy's still a 76. Von Bell hitting free agency. Jordan Poyer, of course. Xavier Woods. Okay, might go to the Texans. That's interesting. And I'm not even sure if I want to bring KJ Osborne back. He's a 73. He's 28 now. I have all of these guys behind him, like Whiting, Wilcox. What's dude's name? Wow, I forgot dude's name. Well, either way, it's just we have a lot of guys that are the same overall that I'd rather see develop more. Even though KJ Osborne has served us well, I think. He had some huge plays down the stretch for us. But I just don't see the point in bringing any of these guys in. Especially the older guys. We're looking to, we're looking to the future here. Tight ends, we're good at tight end. Irv Smith, Derek Barnes, and now Derek Wiggins. I like the guys we have. Now that I think about it, a guy like Andrew Norwell might not be a bad guy to bring in. He's really balanced across the board, which is how I like my linemen. And it also gives us flexibility if we do decide to maybe try and move a guy like Quentin Nelson that's sort of just eating up cap and not providing what I was hoping he would provide when we signed him. There really isn't anybody worth signing for us anyway in free agency at the lineman area, just because everybody seems to be either too old, not good enough, or not a scheme fit. You see, Norwell seems to be rather balanced across the board, but his lead block is absolute trash for a guy that has been around as long as him. And if you look at Tomlinson, his lead block is really good. It's just that he's got a couple of 70s in there instead of all 80s. I almost wonder if we try to bring back Tomlinson, even though he denied us. Why have two holes on the line? Oh, wow. So the Texans lowballed the crap out of him. All I did was offer what he was asking for. So let's do that. Let's offer Tomlinson a contract to bring him back. Taking a look at Nick Bolton, it is actually... I don't think he's even that good. I mean, he's got really good hit power, but his zone lacks a lot. His man coverage is horrible. I'd be really concerned with having to have him try to play on third down, when we expect our backers to be able to cover. We have guys like Alexander and Chin and Whitehead, so I don't think it even makes sense to try to bring in any other linebackers right now. This might be a really boring free agency for the Vikings, period. There's just not many guys that make sense to bring on board. Kelvin Joseph, now that might be interesting. Somebody like him. Let's see what kind of player Kelvin Joseph is. Oh man, he's straight man. No zone. His zone is bad. That's another thing look at that speed though. That speed is something. It really is. Like my corners, I like them to be balanced, I want these guys to be able to be balanced and play at any point in the game, whether it's man, zone, press, slot, outside, whatever it is. Yeah, this is even though there's a lot of good players here, like in terms of like what we need, there's just really nothing here. After looking at this free agency class, I've come to the realization that right now, until something else happens, this team is pretty much set. I don't know if there's much we really have to change aside from trying to get some more players throughout the draft and grow more of our talent that's already here. I offer the contract to Tomlinson, but, there's just not really a position that I see making sense for us to go after. We have very few positions of need, and we have a full draft coming up. I'd rather bring in those kind of players. Like a position for strong safety. At the very worst, We can finally let Cameron Bynum get a chance to start. Or Josh Metellus. If we don't sign somebody or draft somebody, which I think we will. I think safety is one of the main positions I really want to focus on in this draft. Linemen, guards. There's nobody available in free agency. So we're going to have to build to the draft with them as well. Wide receivers, there isn't really anybody that floats my boat, you know? Yeah, I said float my boat. It is what it is. Even corners. We have 3 guys. We even have guys behind him that I'd like enough to try and see more of. Linebackers were good. D-line were good. We've done a lot of good building of this team. So I think for that reason, I think we just have to sim and just sort of see what happens and get ourselves to the draft. And then we're going to deep dive these prospects. And once we do that, then we're going to get to the draft and we're going to have some fun because I'm drafting for all these teams. At the very least in the first round. Depending on what I feel is left in the draft, I'm going to draft for them. So let's go ahead and let's just get towards this draft so we can look at these prospects more. Okay, so we got ourselves to the last stage of free agency. And I wanted to take a quick recap just to sort of show who has been signed by who before we get into the draft portion of the offseason. There, of course, were some signings that I had to edit because, once again, Madden just didn't make sense. You know, teams that have 4 or 5 good receivers signing a receiver, teams signing 3 quarterbacks when they only need 1, and they got all 3. So I went ahead and I did do some fixing with this stuff. And now let's just take a look at it and see where things have gone for free agency since we simmed through it all. A very surprising one is the first one here, Jared Goff, signing with the Green Bay Packers. He had a couple of suitors, but the Packers end up leading the way. They get him, and now he is going to be, I don't know if their plan is to have him back up or, you know, fight it out with Jordan Love, who is still the quarterback. Love, of course, is a superior quarterback. It's just they haven't really gotten much out of Love, and he hasn't really developed a whole lot either. Davis Mills was signed by the Titans. They don't have a quarterback. He is automatically their starting quarterback now after this signing. So that's really cool to see. You know, it's not too many times you see a starting quarterback get found in free agency as opposed to the draft. But with the Titans going to the playoffs last year and actually making a pretty good push, there was no chance they were getting a top flight quarterback in the draft. So they went out and they got Davis Mills. Drew Lock goes back to Denver. How weird is that? Derek Carr going to Miami to back up Zachary Farr. And Kellen Mond is going to Jacksonville to back up Trevor Lawrence. Running back wise, Nyheim Hines led the class for free agency, and he goes to Buffalo to back up Devin Singletary. I'm not really sure how I like that one, but since there was no depth on the team, I just let it slide. I don't think he's going to get a chance to start anywhere. I just didn't see it happening. Marlon Mack had a couple of good seasons with the Dolphins. Now he's going to go to Arizona, where he will be the starting running back for the Cardinals. Taking over, I think it was Darrell Henderson who's there. Yeah, Darrell Henderson and James Conner were there. Now Marlon Mack will be the starter. Myles Gaskin going to Seattle, of course, to back up Chris Carson. Kenneth Gainwell ended up signing with the Lions, which is actually a move I really like. They didn't have too much depth there behind Kareem Hunt. And Hunt, of course, being 30 now, they need to have a guy that they can rely on moving forward. While Kenneth Gainwell is a little undersized, he does offer probably a really nice complimentary back out of the backfield on third downs and in the passing game. Elijah Mitchell goes to the Jets. That's going to be a crowded running back room. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays itself out throughout the preseason with, they have DeAndre Swift, Mitchell now. They drafted Pemberton. They already had Michael Carter. So many guys there. Somebody's not going to be able to make the squad. DJ Dallas goes to the Patriots, who are already loaded at running back. But, once you get down to the 73, 72s, I'm not going to dictate where some of these players go like that. I mean, the chances of this guy actually making an impact on a team are slim. But the biggest offseason signing goes to the Lions, who bring in veteran wide receiver Keenan Allen. In response to them signing him, I cut Courtland Sutton. Sutton was on an aging contract. They have Odell Beckham still. They have Quintus Cephas and, of course, Jacoby Myers, plus a couple of guys that they drafted like Willie Atkinson. So Sutton just really didn't need to be there anymore. So Allen will take over the number 1 spot. Odell Beckham will be the second guy, and they have Jacoby Myers to play in the slot. The Lions also signed Robert Woods, but I overturned that because it didn't make any sense. Why, going back to what I just said, they are crowded at wide receiver. So he is actually back in free agency. You can see Courtland Sutton ended up going to the Giants, which made somewhat of sense because they let Kenny Golladay go. But there's a lot of crowding at receivers right now in this franchise, period, for these aging veterans. And it's just going to be like that for another season or two before these guys really start to regress and retire. And then I guess I just accepted it. It's going to happen. There's nothing I can really do to change it. We're just going to have to, hope these guys regress properly. Deontay Harris ends up signing with the Buccaneers. He was, of course, with the Raiders last year, and now he'll go to Tampa, where he overtook, who was it? Jalen Reagor. I cut him because nobody likes Jalen Reagor. There wasn't much to look at in free agency for the linemen, but Andrew Norwell, the guy we were sort of toying around with signing, ended up going to the Saints, which is something that they definitely needed. He will end up taking over the spot for Andres Pete, who I believe is still there, but he's only a 74 or 75. J.C. Treader ends up going to the Eagles, which I'm going to have to look at that because I'm pretty sure I remember them having a guy there that was young. So that might be something I have to override. Same with Brandon Linder. I remember looking at some of these guys thinking, well, they don't really need linemen. They need these guys to develop. This one was actually a really good signing for the Jets. It was one of the things I had them pegged for being as a need is the right tackle position. And they end up bringing home probably the only serviceable and long-term option at the lineman position across the board in free agency this year is Sam Cosmi. Everybody else is either above 30 or, beyond serviceable years. So getting a 26-year-old 76 overall right tackle in free agency is definitely something that was a very good move for them. The Falcons are going all in. Honest to God, they are going all in, and I'll explain why in a minute. But they started off with Stephen Tuitt, the former Steeler. Now the Falcons are in this franchise. They are now running a 34. They are not running the 43. I'm not sure if they were from the start or not. I can't remember if they switched to that before Madden 22 dropped or before the 21 season. But they're running a 34. So there was a lot of mix-up I had to do. But the Falcons are a team to watch, and I'm going to show you guys why. Because I also have a whole bunch of trades that I did. Not with the Vikings, but just with other teams that I think is really going to shake some stuff up, and I'll explain them all. The other one was J.J. Watt going to the Bengals. I'm not sure. I think I just left it alone because it's J.J. Watt. He can play pretty much any position he wants to, but the Bengals do run a 43. So I'm not sure how well that's going to fit, but I didn't want to also dictate every positional signing. This guy's name, I'm not going to try to say it, ended up going to the Texans, a really good signing for the Texans, who are starting to build a pretty good squad over there. And then this guy, the other guy's name, I don't want to try to say because I'm going to butcher it, and ended up going to the Panthers. Our old D-tackle signs with the enemy, Seattle Seahawks. Okay, Dalvin, we're going to see you again. Shaquille Barrett ends up going to the Saints, and he is going to take over the spot that Anthony Barr had last year, our former linebacker. As his regression brought him down to a 71, Barrett will step in and really give that Saints defense a push in the right direction, even if it's only for a year or two. Nick Bolton, the big linebacker ticket item in the free agency this year, goes to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Very good signing for them. I had them down as really needing a middle linebacker since they run a 34 as well. They didn't have more than I think they only had one guy. So Nick Bolton steps in. He's going to shore up that defense really well for Tampa Bay. They find themselves in the top 10 again this year for picks. And I don't know if that's a Tua problem or what, but they're definitely going after it this year in free agency. One of the bigger signings as well, Stefan Gilmore going to the Giants. A move that sort of puzzled me a little bit because the Giants have the 3rd overall pick, but I just let it go. He's 34. He's going to have to, he's just going to have to deal with certain spots. And I looked, and there was some of the teams that he could have went to more of like the contender teams couldn't afford him, or they just really didn't have a need for him. So the Giants are just trying to, I don't know if they're trying to push for a last minute, I don't know what they're trying to do, but they've been putting together a couple of nice signings here for veterans to bring to the team. See if maybe that can turn things around. Byron Jones is going to Cincinnati. Marcus Peters to the Eagles. A lot of veterans, like I said before, that I'm just waiting for these guys to fall off a little bit so things can get more interesting. Taylor Rapp goes to the Bills, which is actually a position of need for me. So I'm glad to see that the Madden AI is not that far off with some of these signings. Xavier Woods, our former safety, signs with the Texans to take over their strong safety position. Now it's time to talk about the trades that I put through. There was a lot of players on some teams that did really bad. Specifically teams that are probably picking in the top 10 this year that had veterans on them, and to me, it just didn't make sense. The team is not performing well. It's time for a rebuild. Madden doesn't know when to hit the kill switch, but I feel like I do a little bit. So I hit the kill switch on a couple of teams to move some players around and make sense. And one of the teams that I did that for was the Broncos. Oh boy, we got the glowing head of Jesus in front of us here. Look at that. I haven't seen that in a while. I forgot this was even a problem in the game. Come on, Madden. Oh man, but either way, Leonard Williams was a guy that was on the Broncos. He's 31 years old. He's still good. He doesn't want to waste his time on the Broncos, and he saw that all of these veterans were going to Atlanta for some reason, so he decided to join the party. The Broncos trade him to the Falcons for, I believe it was a guard, just like a depth guy, a possible starter depending on how things go, and a 5th-round pick. So nothing too crazy, but he's 31. They ended up getting a starting lineman out of it, like I said. And Leonard Williams is now an Atlanta Falcon. Jalen Mayfield was the guy that was traded to the Broncos for Leonard Williams. He's a young left guard that's going to help the Broncos offensive line. And then, of course, they got the 5th-round pick out of it as well. The other move I made was I traded Von Miller, who was still on the Broncos in our world, to the Chicago Bears. And in return, the Bears gave up a strong safety, more like a fill-in player, nobody that's going to start. I think it was like a 70 overall, and a 3rd-round pick to bring in Von Miller for, maybe one last push to the playoffs, as Justin Fields has had a very good couple of seasons. It just seems that they have not been able to put it together. But Von Miller, now a Bear. Again, sort of same situation. I was looking around the league, and a lot of the teams that could afford him, or that could use him as a contendership, just could not afford him, and also just didn't have the assets to give up. So he goes to the Bears, who, even though they had a down year, are just as much in contention around here as anybody, because the NFC North is always up for grabs, it seems. There never seems to be just a set in stone type of division. In response to the signing of Stefan Gilmore, the Giants traded James Bradbury over to the football team. Yeah, I know, same division, I get it. All right, I was tired. All right, I'm looking at teams. I'm not even thinking about that stuff. I'm just finding guys that need to go places. And yeah, it happened. All right, sue me. I traded a guy to a division team. It is what it is. I didn't realize it until after. But anyway, James Bradbury is now a Washington football team player, and he was traded for a 4th-round pick. And he did fill a need, which is part of the reason I traded him here. They needed somebody here. They only had Kendall Fuller and Benjamin St. Justy. I'm horrible. And then a couple of other guys that they can build up, but they really needed a number 2. So I went and got him one. So sue me. Apparently I formed a habit without realizing it, because Melvin Barrow was traded to the Panthers from the Saints. So I did it again. 2 division rival teams, 2 different times, trading with each other for players that can help their team. I'm a mess. But it is what it is. Melvin Barrow, who was sitting on the bench in New Orleans thanks to New Orleans drafting Von Burney at free safety, he gets traded to the Panthers, where he immediately becomes the starter, and the Saints received a 3rd-round pick for him. We are back in Atlanta because this was probably one of the most staple trades of the offseason that I did. Shaq Sullivan was a Cleveland Brown, and the Cleveland Browns run a 43. Shaq Sullivan is through and through a speed rusher. And because of his size, he is not big enough to play a 43 end. So I couldn't even move him around on the Browns depth chart to make him play in position. He was playing outside linebacker, so I made a trade with the Falcons. As I said, the Falcons are putting together a really good team, and I'll show you the rest of the defense that they've acquired after this. In response to the trade, the Falcons gave up Caleb McGarry, who will become the starting right tackle for the Browns, and they gave up Gabriel Davis, the wide receiver, who I think it was last year that they signed. So they gave up 2 good players to acquire Shaq Sullivan, who's going to be, I think, a pretty good player for them on defense. One of the last trades to talk about is for the Eagles here. The Eagles drafted Will Osgood a couple of years ago, and he is now an 80 overall. They had Jordan Mailata in front of him, who was just holding off Osgood, and the rest of their line is actually pretty good. See, look at this. Look at this crap. See what I'm talking about? They signed J.C. Tretter, and he's not even needed here. You know, he's not even needed here. That's why I was thinking about that, because we traded them Garrett Bradbury. Like, this is very simple stuff to get right, Madden. This is very simple stuff to get right. Look at the amount of improvement here. It is minor. It is minimal. It makes no sense. J.C. Tretter is going back to free agency. I'll end up signing these guys in the preseason to the right teams. Man, I hate that. But as you can see, they have Zach Foster, who, while he's not the greatest, he is a guy they should try to build. So now they have Will Osgood over here, and we traded Jordan Mailata to the Green Bay Packers. They needed a left tackle. Eichenberg, the guy that I traded for him last year, he ended up getting cut in free agency. I didn't even realize he was on an expiring deal. And the Packers didn't even try to re-sign him, and I didn't even catch it until he was already signed by a different team. So I made the trade for Jordan Mailata, who's obviously a much better left tackle anyway. And in response for that, they gave up a 2nd-round pick to have Jordan Mailata become their new left tackle. At only 28 for a lineman, he's good for another 5 to 6 years. You know, linemen, if you don't know, they don't really, they don't fall off very hard. Look at Dalvin Tomlinson, or look at Laken Tomlinson. I can't even say that guy's name. Look at Laken Tomlinson. We got him at 28, 29, or was it 30? And he played up till 32 before losing anything. So Mailata here, he's going to help this line get back to what they were before Bakhtiari decided to hang it up randomly. And the Packers, who really don't have that many holes, get a great player for a draft pick. Now to look at some of these teams that I sort of hit the kill switch on to do a reset. The Broncos being the first one. They have a really good front 7 now. Quincy Miller, who was drafted 2 years ago, he is an 80 overall. Robert Greenard, who was drafted just last year, he is a 77 overall. Devon Hamilton and Tristan Hill are still here at D tackle. They have John Armstrong, who was drafted a few years ago. Alexander Johnson and Caleb Moore. Caleb Moore was drafted last year. And of course, Bradley Chubb is still here. The secondary is rather good as well. Patrick Surtain, Mike Hilton, who they just signed. Michael Ojemudia, I'm pretty sure I butchered that. Zaire Weston, Brian Thompson, Justin Simmons, and then Kari Willis, the former Buccaneer, is still here. So this defense, even though they gave up some pieces, is still pretty good and a lot more younger. The only thing that they really need is a quarterback. Teddy Bridgewater is 32. He's a 75 overall. He's not going to get any better, obviously. And he hasn't helped them out. They had the 7th overall pick in this year's draft, but they do not anymore. And I'll explain why. But what they did was they traded their 1st round pick, the 7th overall pick, to the Bills, who I believe hold the 20th pick. Or was it? Yes. They held the 20th pick in this year's draft. And in return, they received, of course, the Bills' 1st, a 3rd this year, and a 2nd next year to fall back 13 spots. which I thought was a pretty solid trade for the Broncos, and the Bills will now come up to the 7th spot to draft. But the reason the Bills moved up is, of course, with the new draft class, there is a lot of defensive ends and outside linebackers here. A lot of them. Something the Broncos do not need. They've already drafted 2 or 3 in the last couple of years. They have depth. They don't need any edge rushers. They don't need them right now. But they need a quarterback. But there's no quarterback after the top 2 who I believe are going to go available. There is a couple more down the line, like first, second round guys. And so because of that, I was like, well, let's try to maximize the Broncos, draft capital here by allowing them to move down to the 20th spot, where it's more in line to take one of those last quarterbacks. And then, of course, because it's such a loaded draft class for defensive ends and edge rushers, the Bills, who actually do need one, move up and they get the guy that they wanted. Because if they were waited until 20, I don't think any of these guys are going to be there for them. And then the last thing I wanted to touch on was the Falcons. The Falcons, like I said, have been making moves to acquire pieces to make a run here this next season. Steven Tuitt was the first domino to fall. After that, Leonard Williams came to town. They have Michael Pierce still, so they have one of the probably most veteran defensive lines right now in the league. They now have Shaq Sullivan. They have Deion Jones and Foyesade. Oh gosh, that guy. I know who he is, but I can't say his name. And they have Von Claxton, who was drafted just a year ago. This is a spot where they might go in the draft yet. I'm not 100% sure. They have a great secondary. A.J. Terrell Jr., Warren Yarbrough, and Carl Hopkins. Jerron Goldston, the new starting free safety who is waiting in the wings. And Jordan Poyer, who they signed in free agency. All of a sudden, this defense actually is ready for something. So I think it's going to be a good thing for them. That is all of the stuff I had to talk about. Now it's time for us to really take a dive at this draft class and take a look at some of the players. There are 2 top 5 quarterbacks in this year's draft class. Adrian Collins from Oregon State and Sean Stevenson from Oregon. Okay, that's a little weird, but that doesn't surprise me. After that, there's Parker Pritchard, Mike Haskins, and Tyrone Bullard, who are all on the board here. And you'll see that I have some hearts on these guys. Yes, I do. And I have to be 100% transparent here with you guys. I might want a scrambling quarterback. I don't know if I'm ever going to be happy with Taylor Hopkins. As crazy as that sounds. But I have been through the ringer with this guy. I have tried different playbooks. I've tried different schemes. I've tried everything with this guy. And yet we always end up on the losing end of games, primarily due to bad decisions. I can't blame it on his awareness. His awareness is pretty good. I can't blame it on his accuracy. His accuracy is pretty good. But I have tried for 2 seasons now to get him out of strong arm, and every goddamn time I get close, it jumps up 2. Every time. Every single time. I don't know why every other team's quarterback seems to play fine, but they do. And Taylor Hopkins routinely gets sacked like an idiot, throws the ball away, decides to chuck it deep 3 or 4 times in a row instead of trying to find an open guy in the middle, short, to try and extend drives instead of trying to take the top of the defense off every single time. And I'm sort of over it. Now, I don't know if I'm going to draft a quarterback. Even if I do, I don't know if it's going to be a guy who's even good at starting. But there's 2 guys that are actually, what I'm seeing, pretty much scrambling type of quarterbacks, and that's Parker Pritchard and Tyrone Bullard. I don't know why Bullard fell a little bit, but he did. But I even put my completion, I even did my extra scouting on him because I'm so close to drafting a different quarterback that I need to know what I'm getting into if I actually do this. Of course, this wouldn't be like a first round thing. I don't think that would make sense for us to take a first round pick on him, on either of these guys. But Parker Pritchard, he's got B, throw under pressure, B, play action, B, break sack, B, spin move, 4.46 Look at that 40 time. Elite speed. Elite speed. It's just something I almost can't not look at. And I thought of maybe Mike Haskins. He lowered down the board, but this is the same exact guy. Same exact guy. Plays exclusively from the pocket. He's 6'4", 245 pounds. You know this guy's going to be slow as molasses. You just know it. Poor speed. And then Tyrone Bullard, who is another guy that I was looking at. The reason I looked at him is because I do think that Pritchard's going to be gone by the time we even get a chance to pick, because the Broncos are ahead of us, and the Broncos need a quarterback. And if I get on the board with the Broncos, how can I not take Parker Pritchard for them? Even if I like him. He's got great stats. He's got good physical tools. I think he would fit really well with that offense and Javonte Williams. So I don't know if he's going to be there. I thought about taking Mike Haskins for them, but I just don't know if that's going to fit for their offense. So I don't know yet. I don't know. One of these two guys is probably going to end up being chosen for the Broncos. And that's going to leave Tyrone Bullard, because if Bullard and Haskins are left, there's no way I'm taking Haskins. I'm going to take Bullard. If I even have to, is what I'm saying. I'm not saying I'm going to. I'm just saying if it comes to that. But Tyrone Bullard is a guy that I decided to look at deeper. He's second in quarterback, so he's not as fast as Pritchard, but he's got elite speed as well. He's got a really good combine. And look at his skills. After doing the extra scouting on him, the focus players or the private workouts thing, A, awareness, B, spin, A, throw on the run, A, juke move, B, throw deep, B, mid. I don't know a few more things, but man, that guy looks good. That looks really good to me. Those are the quarterbacks of this draft class. And yes, I am considering it because I am sick and tired of seeing Hopkins do some stupid stuff. The running backs, there's not really any guys that stand out way at the top of the list. Julius Chambers leading the way as the top back. Deontay King. I really like that name, Deontay King. It's a cool name. He is the second. And D'Angelo Patrick, Mike Shelby, Donovan Dixon. A lot of guys, but nobody's really standing out from what I'm seeing. And I'm not really, scouting them, so I don't have much information to go off of for them. Demar Thornton is listed as the best player in this draft class, based off of, of course, the Madden ratings. He's listed at the top of the draft for all of the mock drafts, which honestly he might end up being the top pick. Here's a little secret, because the Raiders are up there, and I don't know if you guys remember me telling you the Raiders need some receivers bad. But aside from him, it drops off a little bit. No clear-cut first rounder at that point, but a lot of mid-round guys. There's a whole group of guys here that can go between back end of the first to the fourth or fifth round, and there is a lot of them. Braden Lennon, Tyler Wayne, Marcus Givens, Craig Combs, a lot of shorter guys. And you'll see that I have, favorited a few of the bigger body guys. Once again, I know, but I can't help myself. Reggie Wagner, Matt Bean, Charles Thomas, Niles Mann, Jeremiah Wolf, Brandon Jefferson. We should bring him on just because he's got the same name as Jefferson. Jose Harris, J.D. Smith, Ricky Sherman, Devontae Craig. There's so many guys down here. Tight ends, very light tight end class. Nobody before round 2, and it doesn't even have a clear-cut round 2, so, Greg Peters, Joey Foster, Lamar Stevens, and then it's automatically into the day 3 already. Trayvon Mcbride, top 5 pick for left tackle, but after that it falls off a cliff again. Seems like these draft classes are really light for linemen. Hunter Arnold, Sammy Terry, they're really only 2 round 1 projected guards. Seth Cole, the only round 1 projected center. A couple of round 1 guys here for right guard, Dwayne Blake and Morris Triplett. And then Dom James, Cedric Anderson. And then it's already day 3. This is where it starts to heat up a little bit, though. Joey Harrison, Danny Carmichael, Sheldon Williamson, Paul Pickett, Kevin Schrader. A whole bunch of first-round potential at D-tackle. Chad Shivers, Ross Rush. That's going to be interesting to say. Ross Rush. Larry Gillisley, Brandon Capers, Percy Clifford, Joey Dwyer, LaMichael Holcomb, Bronson Smart, Daniel Harris, the only middle linebacker, Jake Burns, Brian Livingston, and Cameron McCullough. A lot of front seven guys, a lot of pass rushers available in this draft, which is why, again, I decided to move the Broncos back. They don't need one. And the Bills do, so it makes sense for them to move up. The heaviest portion of this draft is the corners. There are so many corners in this draft. Carlos Pounds, CJ Colvin, Eddie Bowen, Dextrell Patterson, Anthony Knight, Don Manning, Martin Mann, Russ Blackwell, Will Sutton, Stephen Chamberlain, Deshaun Rudd. That's 11 guys that could potentially go in the first round. 11. And then you have a whole group of guys, a couple more guys in the second to third. It's just such a class of corners. I feel like we almost have to go after one at some point. I don't know when, because we really don't need a corner, but I want to have the options open. And now we get to the safeties, the part where we actually need to get somebody, and I feel like there is nobody. Free safeties, I have a lot of them checked off here, but there's not really anybody that stands out. Jeremiah Farley is the top guy for a 2 to 3 third round selection. I do have a lot of work done on the strong safeties. There's a couple of guys here. Dorian Peak, of course, being the top guy. I highly doubt we get a chance to get him. I think I already have him pegged for a certain team if he's there available. Stephen Haynes is another one, rounds 2 to 3. Nazir Ward, Trayvon Lowry, Sam Truman, Quentin Garvin. But once we get like pretty much past round 3 to 4, I really don't want to take them because I've already taken these guys. You know, I'd rather take one of these 4 guys here: Dorian Peak, Haynes, Ward, or Lowry. And looking at them, I'm not even going to look at Peak because I know I'm going to like what I see and I'm not going to be able to take him. Looking at Stephen Haynes here, he's 6'1", 199, 22 years old. He doesn't look like he can help much in the... It says he's a zone corner, but yet his man in zone coverage is horrible. And he doesn't have anything jumping off the paper at the physicals either. I mean, not too bad of a 40 time, but 4.58. I don't know. But he's got A catching, A pursuit, which is nice, B awareness, that's a plus. I mean, the zone and man we could work on. So he's not too bad of an issue of a prospect, you know, second or third round. Nazir Ward right behind him, rounds 3 to 4. I like him much better. He's 6 foot 210. He's 21 out of Miami. And he looks like, it says his speed is a little bit the same, but it says his speed is great, which doesn't make much sense to me. But it is what it is. But his stats are what really tell me something. You know, his hit power is B, his tackle is A, catching A, man coverage B. The only thing I don't like is his stamina being a D, but honestly, the last couple of drafts, I've seen that doesn't even matter. They still end up coming in with like 90 stamina. I don't know why it keeps saying they have such a bad grade there, but awareness is B as well. They have a stacked, this guy seems to be pretty stacked, and for a 3rd to 4th round selection, I might have to try to make a move for him. And then the last one is Trayvon Lowry, who we have a lot of his stuff unlocked, and it says he's run support, but his speed is even worse. So 4.64, and nothing is really just jumping off the table to me. It says he has A finesse move. Why do you have A finesse move? You are a safety. You know, C awareness, C play rec, C hit power, which, I mean, it's not too bad, but I did want more of a thumper at the safety position for strong safety because Cameron Curl is not a strong hitter. He's not. He's more of the coverage guy. So we need somebody like Xavier Woods where he can hit you. So that's going to be somebody that I'm not sure about right now at this point, unless somehow we get a chance at Dorian Peak. Yeah, so at this point, I feel like Nazir Ward is going to be the guy that I want to target at some point in the 2nd round, possibly maybe the 3rd round. I also might try to even move back in the draft if we don't have a guy towards the top that we can go after. Looking at Darren Michaels, I'm really not a fan of him. I mean, his pursuit is an F and his tackle is a D. So I didn't even look much beyond that after seeing that. Like, there's nothing here that really sparks my interest in him. C awareness, C play rec, there's no point in taking him. So we're going to take him off our board. Chris Espinoza here. He has B tackle, He has a decent 40. And it looks like he has B finesse move, which is a little confusing, but he has B man coverage, which is a plus, and A awareness. So this is a guy that's going to stay on our board. He's a possible target, second or third round. Devin Robbins, he has a solid speed. Nothing great. Seventh spot, 4.61, not too bad. But again, looking here, C tackle, C block shed, D hit power, F finesse move, which I really don't care about finesse move anyway. But we really don't know a lot about him. I don't know enough to take him off my board. But for a second round pick, I don't know if I really want to go in his direction. And then brings us down to Dion Lewis out of Arkansas. Dion Lewis is another one here. The reason that he really sticks out to me is look at his speed. He's first amongst linebackers in the 40 and in the 3-cone drill and 20-yard drill. Like, he is the fastest linebacker here. And he has A awareness, which is nice. C play rec. B finesse move. C pursuit. I wish the pursuit was a little bit better. But he's a guy that we could potentially target, especially with that third or fourth round grade. That leaves us room in the second round to look elsewhere. Will Rogers of Arizona. He as well has C. But this is the thing with him. He's really slow. Well, not really slow, but he's much slower than, of course, Dion Lewis and even the guy before him. But he does have B impact block, C awareness, C tackle, and D injury. So we don't know a whole lot about him, even though we know more about him than we do some of the other guys, which is confusing. Ross Bartow from USC. Immediately I see that his zone coverage is a D, and that makes me feel that I might not be able to take him. Because the only real reason we need linebackers is we need guys that can cover, especially at middle linebacker. And his pursuit is F. I mean, day 3, you're gonna have these guys where they're in between. And the last is Kamani Ross from Eastern Washington, who once again, a lot of bad grades here. D, D, F. The only decent one is impact block at B. But I just don't know what to expect with the pursuit being a D. That's a little worrisome for a linebacker. So a few guys here. I don't think we're going to target a linebacker this late in the draft. So I'm going to remove these guys. And then I think it's going to be between these guys here, depending on where we're at in the draft. But I really, right now, I'm looking at one of these two guys. Just because it's rounds 3 to 4, which means we can, save our second round pick for something else and try to attack somebody here in the third round instead of the second round. Looking at the corners, I do want to leave these guys in place just because I feel that they are going to be, they're going to be there for us to choose from if need be. DeAndre Kendricks in the second and third round, and then we have a few guys in 3 to 4, actually a whole group of guys in the 3 to 4, which could be helpful. And then we have a couple of day 3 guys, which I'm not sure if we're going to go that route or not, but we have options down here if need be for the mid rounds. Looking at the receivers, it's sort of a crapshoot for me. I've seen guys have bad 40s but good speed. I've seen guys have good 40s but bad speed. I've seen guys have C catching but 75 catching. I don't know, maybe I'm just noticing this in the wide receivers because I've been focusing on them, but there just seems to be no rhyme or reason when it comes to the rating system in here for these guys. And I'm sure that goes across the board for other positions. I just know I've seen it a lot for receivers, where I think some guy's going to end up having like 88 speed, 87 speed, and he ends up having 90 speed or 91 speed. So I'm not 100% sure how to handle or how to think about that. So these guys, we're just going to sit on them. I'm not sure if we're going to be targeting any receivers early on. I really don't even know who to target early on. That's what I'm so concerned about. I don't even know who we want to target because we really don't need anybody in the front 7, which seems to be where this draft is stacked the most. See, I don't even have anybody chosen up here because there's just no need for it, So, and then going back to the quarterbacks, I have these two guys here pegged. Man, am I crazy to think I take a quarterback in the top of the second or the back end of the first? Am I insane for that? I mean, yeah, I might be, We have an 85 overall quarterback who's a superstar. But I just feel like we need insurance. It's a very weird draft class. And of course, I didn't get any stories either because, this is a brand new class that was just put in place. So there's not really any stories to go off of either because it was put in at the very last stages of the draft, which, is fine. But I really don't know what we're going to get out of this draft. It might not be a very exciting draft at all for us. But either way, it is something we're going to have to do. So at this point, I think it's just time to get to the draft and just see what happens. Okay, we are in the draft. First pick of the draft is going to be the Raiders. And after looking around, I have decided that with the first pick, the Raiders are going to end up taking Demar Thornton, the wide receiver who's top of the class for everything. So the Raiders, oh boy, look at that. 93 speed, 94 acceleration, 95 agility, and a hidden dev receiver. That's a pretty good pick right there for the Raiders. The Rams are on the board, and the Rams now, they have just suffered a retired player at quarterback. Matthew Stafford decided to hang it up. So now they're left with nothing. And because of that, it's time to bring in the future of the LA Rams. And there is nobody better I can think of other than the top quarterback, Adrian Collins from Oregon State. So Adrian Collins will be the pick here for the Rams. Another hidden dev. The next pick is the Giants. This one was a tough choice because I'm sitting here looking at Daniel Jones, who is an 81 overall. But then I'm looking at, him as a quarterback. 86.3 last year. Last year was his best season. 28 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Other than that, he's never sniffed 90 or above for a rating. That was the only year. Everything else has been below 90. And this year was no different. Yeah, he had decent yards, but everybody does. 25 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. And he only completed 58% of his passes, the worst of his career. You can see that he sort of flirts with the 60 area, but twice now he's fallen below 60% on the whole season, and he's never had better than 62. And that had me thinking, do I reach for a different position that is not really necessarily needed? I could take a top running back, but they don't really need a running back. They have Barkley here. They just drafted Brandon Manning. They have a ton of receivers here. At least enough to not draft a receiver here top of the round. They have good tight ends. Nobody here or there. They have a good tackle. Even their front seven here is pretty dang good. Dean Coleman, I believe, was the rookie of the year last year. Adrian Bean. They still have Eric Kendricks here at middle linebacker. There's not really anybody that they necessarily really need here. So what I decided to do with the Giants was let's hit the reset button and let's bring in some competition for Daniel Jones. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sign, and the reason I'm not taking Dorian Peak here is because they actually have a strong safety that they just drafted a season or two. That's I think he's a 78 overall, 78 or an 80 overall. He's a good safety. There's no reason for him to go here. So because of that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take Sean Stevenson, the other quarterback for Oregon, to give some competition to Daniel Jones. Okay, he ends up being a normal dev, but he's got 89 throw power, 81 speed, 79 acceleration. The Cardinals needed one thing the most from what I was seeing, and that was a left tackle. And there just so happens to be a top 5 left tackle still on the board here. So we are going to go ahead and we're going to take Trayvon Mcbride for the Cardinals. And Trayvon Mcbride ends up being a hidden dev, 87 strength, 82 acceleration, 63 speed, 6'4", 339 pounds. That's a big man right there to hopefully help protect Kyler Murray's blindside. Okay, so I just tried to retire about 15 times from the Raiders because of, I just picked for their first round pick, and apparently I can't. The game crashes every single time I try to do it. So now the draft just got that much more difficult for me because I'm pretty much going to have to try and manage my own trades then, which I don't really like having to do, but we'll make it work. We'll make it work. So let's go ahead and let's just keep on picking here. So the next pick is the Steelers. The Steelers, I have pegged needing some defensive ends because they got rid of not only Stephen Tuitt, but also Cameron Hayward. So both of their longtime defensive ends are now gone. And for that reason, the first pass rusher is going to be taken, and it is Joey Harrison out of North Carolina. So Joey Harrison going to Pittsburgh. Pretty good stats on him, hidden development. Now the Lions are on the board. The Lions were another one that I was a little up in the air about. I wasn't sure which spot I should really go for them. But the one thing that stood out to me was the corner position. The reason for that is Maddox is 29. He's now worse. He was better than Okudah, but he's now worse. They have Joel Justice here, but after Justice, they sort of fall off. Between Okudah and Justice, I just feel like that might be the bigger need for them. Actually, you know what? This might be a really good spot for Dorian Peak to go, the top safety. Looking at this here, they have 275s. I mean, neither of them really hit home. They did draft Kevin Otting just a year ago, but I don't know if... Oh, he got the star now. Wow. Oh, man, that makes it hard. Now I feel like I shouldn't draft that safety there. Well, they need sort of two guys. Orlando Vickers, he's a 3-year pro. He's not going to keep getting much better than that. Yeah, maybe we take the Dorian Peak right here. Because, I mean, looking at this, their corners aren't too bad. It doesn't necessarily mean they need to take somebody. They could go after... They need some linebacker help. They have Lowry. But this is the... Okay, now I remember this. The reason I was not looking at linebacker for the Lions is because they run a 43. And there's no 43 linebacker available at this point. That's worth it. I know Harris is listed like way back at the first round, but this is the top 10 pick. I can't be taking... I'm not going to reach for the Lions on purpose. That just seems really stupid. So that was why I was looking at corner, because this is such a star-studded draft at corner. And they have so many receivers already. So, and now with Kenneth Gainwell, they don't even need they don't even need a running back. I think we're going to go Dorian Peak, the strong safety. Yeah. He's the best player on the board. I mean, Carlos Pounds is another option here, but I feel like safety's a bigger need. And we know more about Dorian Peak. We know this guy is probably pretty good at 80% completion. Okay, hidden dev, 92 acceleration, 90 change of direction, 92 agility, 90 speed, and 85 jumping. He's a little bit on the shorter side, but that is a lot of speed for a guy who is listed as a hybrid. I wonder what his ratings are going to be in terms of... Well, it says his hit power is a B and his pursuit's a B, so he might be an all-around really good safety for them. And that leaves the Bills, who've traded up, remember, with the Broncos because of needing some pass rushers. And there is another guy that is still here at the top of the board, and that's Joe Dwyer out of Texas Tech. And that is who is going to be the selection here for the Bills. Joe Dwyer, another hidden dev, 21 years old, 88 acceleration, 82 speed, 78 strength for them, and now they have themselves another pass rusher. The Buccaneers are another team that I was not 100% sure on where to go for them at first. After looking at their roster, I realized that they need an edge rusher out here. They run a 34. They have middle linebackers, but the one spot missing was a pass rusher on this side. So I don't think we're going to be able to get an outside linebacker at this point for them, but I do know that there should be, yes, Sheldon Williamson here, who is... I wonder if he's going to be okay, though, to stand up at 264 pounds. I wonder if that might be a little bit too much. Jake Burns is here. And he's an outside linebacker. Well, he's 6'6", 267, so why couldn't Williamson do the same? We're going to decide here for the Buccaneers shortly. He's got good, 4.66, so that's pretty decent. What does Williamson have? If he's too slow, 4.5. Oh, wow, he's first for all defensive ends. So I'm wondering if maybe he might be a better option. They could even go Paul Pickett, who 6'2", 250. I mean, the default would be Sheldon Williamson, but I feel like Pickett might be a better option for them. Okay, there we go. Ends up being hidden dev, 85 excel, 86 speed. Change of direction leaves you wanting a little bit more, but 86 strength as well. That's going to be a nice thing here for the Buccaneers. Good pick there. Okay, now the Texans are on the board. The Texans, I feel, do need a corner. And their corners are pretty light. I mean, they have Davis, who's an 87. He's very good. But then Desmond King, who's 30, he's getting worse. And behind that, there's like next to nobody. So this is going to be the spot where I think the first corner is going to go off the board. And because I switched my standings on the Lions, who I initially had going with a corner, Carlos Pounds is still available here. And that's who the Texans are going to end up drafting. Ooh, ends up being normal. We haven't seen too many normals so far. But he's got 94 acceleration and 90 speed, which, can't complain there. He is the top corner. Hopefully I didn't draft a bust. But I don't, usually in the top of the part of the draft, you don't have guys that are busts. I'm surprised to see somebody not hidden that high on the draft board, but oh well. Okay, now the Bears are up next. Now the Bears, I think, also need a corner. The Bears here, they have Jalen Johnson, who's very good. But then it's Connor Fulton, Isaiah Oliver, and again, it falls off again. I just don't think there's a lot of the substance here. Everybody else on the defense is pretty well off. Now, especially with Von Miller being added. So, for that reason, looking at even the line is really good. Tight ends are good. Receivers are good. They have good fullbacks. So for that reason, we are going to go corner for the Bears. And that's going to be CJ Colvin, the next guy down on the list. And CJ Colvin ends up being a hidden dev. 95 acceleration, 92 speed. Very quick corner. And that puts the Packers on the board. And the Packers are another team that I think might need a corner here. I want to take another look at their roster, because with Jordan Love here and Jared Goff, I really don't see them going after a quarterback. Jordan Love is still pretty good, even though, he's not really up there. He is a 79, 26 overall, 26 years old still. Definitely don't need a running back. I thought about receiver for them, but with some of the guys they have here, Pittman and Harry are still only 27. They have Amon-Ra St. Brown now that they signed out of free agency, Amari Rodgers, and then a couple of younger guys they've drafted the last couple of seasons. Justin Stewart was a first-round pick not that long ago. They have Jordan Mailata now. The rest of the line, aside from right guard, is actually really good, but there's not a right guard way up here that I feel comfortable taking. I feel like that would be a cheap way out for the Packers. They have some really good linebackers. And even their corners aren't too bad. It's not that they have bad corners. I just don't know where else to really go. That's just my opinion, to add another corner here. I don't know where else to really add somebody. We could maybe potentially look at taking a defensive end for them. Grady Jarrett is 32. Yeah, he's great. But even Draymond Jones is 28. So maybe let's take a look, because now they have a couple of these guys here like Sheldon Williamson. I just don't know if he's going to fit that scheme, And they do have Hunter Arnold here. I just don't know if that's going to be a good pick. I guess I felt like corner would be a safe bet with Eddie Bowen here. And there's so many corners here. So many corners. I mean, there are guards. I just don't know if that's the right thing to do for the team. They have a younger guy at right guard. It's not like they have an older guy there. So I think what we're going to do is we are going to take Sheldon Williamson, who does seem to be a power rush kind of guy. From his skills here, it says that he's got C power moves. And his build being almost 265 pounds tells me he's a power rusher. So we're going to take Sheldon Williamson here for the Packers. Hidden dev. There we go. 79 strength, 86 speed, 86 acceleration. Very nice build for them. We have the Jaguars now on the clock. And the Jaguars are, I think this is a spot where we could see another corner go. It's not that they have a lot of bad corners, but they have a lot of older corners. Shaquille Griffin, Dante Jackson, Rashad Fenton, who they did just sign. Or, maybe we could see a pass rusher go here. Yeah, maybe. I think that's what we do. I think we go for a pass rusher here. This would be a good spot to see another edge rusher go. We are going to bring on Jake Burns for the Jaguars. He's been sitting out here for a little bit. He could have gone a few picks ago, but they do need some help there. They have Deshaun Hand and I think some other guys like a 74. Their stand-up rushers are pretty decent, but they definitely need some help here at the outside linebacker position and the edge rusher position. So I think that's what we're going to go here. So Jake Burns is going to go to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and he ends up being normal dev, 90 acceleration, 84 speed. That's going to be nice for them. And that brings us to the Atlanta Falcons. Now the Falcons, as I said, they've been going on a tear to get their team stacked up and doing a lot in the free agency pool. And now I'm going to sit here, I'm looking at their roster. They have a lot of good young receivers, so I don't think that it makes sense to go receiver here. And their line is really not bad. And now with the edge rushers that they have, the only thing I could see them doing here is potentially another outside rusher, because Claxton isn't really, he's not that good, but he's also very young and he has a chance to grow. One spot I was looking at to potentially go for them is D tackle. We haven't seen one go yet, and Michael Pierce is 32. Obviously, some of their other players are also on the older side as well. But looking at the board here, they don't need a guard. They don't need corners. They don't need an outside rusher. And then there's this Chad Shivers, who's 6'6", 312 pounds. He could really play probably all over the line. But he is a solid D tackle choice for them to potentially replace Michael Pierce and give way for, the future of the defensive line once all of the veterans they have now hit the road. So we are going to go ahead and we're going to choose Chad Shivers for the Falcons. Oh, look at those B across the board. All right. He ends up being normal dev. We'll have to wait and see. 93 strength, though. Holy cow, that's some good strength. B finesse, B block shed, and B power move, A play rec. He's going to have some pretty good stats coming out. That brings us to the Saints, who are another team that could use an edge rusher. The Saints are running a 43 defense. They just got Shaquille Barrett. They have Flaherty, who they traded for from the Chiefs last year. So there is two schools of thoughts here, right? We could look at a guy like a running back here. Alvin Kamara is 30. Yes, he's very, very good. But I believe he's coming up on the last year of his contract. He is. This is his final year of his contract. Are they going to want to pay him after this season? He's going to be 31. He's probably going to want another 3 or 4 year deal. As much as I like Kenny Nwangu, I don't think he's ever going to be a starter-worthy running back. We could see them take the first running back off the board here. Because now looking at this, it doesn't look like their front seven really needs immediate assistance. Is there even a running back? Yeah, Julius Chambers is the top running back on the board. But he's way down here at 20. Man, I don't want to, force a position, but they don't need a guard. They really don't need corners. They don't need outside pass rushers. They don't need a guard at all because they have some pretty good ones. They could go Daniel Harris. Daniel Harris is one of the only linebackers towards the top of the draft that fits a 43 scheme. But you just hate to see them go like that with a 14th. So let's see about, let's try something here. The Titans went out and got a new quarterback, Davis Mills. They have obviously great running backs. They have good receivers. But they are severely hurting along the offensive line. Yes, so I think what we're going to do here is we're actually going to do a trade here with the Titans and the Saints, because I feel like the Saints don't really need anybody at this part of the draft, and the Titans need some offensive line help. They have some severely battered linemen. Older, just not very good, never really panned out. So let's see here. What could I do? There we go. We're going to do a 1st and 2/3 to the Saints for their 14th pick. And the reason for this is the Titans could really use either offensive line or an edge rusher, which there are some up here still, and the Saints do not need either one. So let's go ahead and do that. There we go. Now that the Titans are on the clock, I think this is a good spot for LaMichael Holcomb to go, who's been sort of passed over a couple of times. Between him and Bronson Smart, they're both pretty good, I think, but I think Holcomb probably should have went a while ago. I don't know if guard is needed more so than a linebacker right now for the Titans. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to take LaMichael Holcomb for the Titans. Okay, so he ends up being a normal dev. 89 acceleration, though. That's pretty nice. 84 strength. He's got B pursuit, A impact block. So hopefully he can assist the Titans pass rush situation. And that brings us to the Cincinnati Bengals. And now the Bengals are actually a team where I could see the first guard go. Looking at their roster, they have Dennis Daly. They have Jackson Carm on the other side, but they have a big hole here at left guard, and the rest of the line is actually in pretty good shape. So the first lineman is going to go off of the board here, and it's going to be Hunter Arnold going to the Bengals. Okay, there we go. Hidden development, 87 strength, 83 acceleration, 72 speed. Very good for a lineman, especially an interior lineman. 6'6", 342 pounds. Which then brings us to the Jets. The Jets are another team. There were so many teams I was looking at. I think this is a spot where a corner could go. They have Lance Moreland, who they drafted last year. They have Sheffield and then Johnson, who's 29, and then really nothing else. They have some pretty good corners, or some pretty good safeties to build off of. And, ooh, they have holes now. They have some holes here. What do they run? They run a 43 now. Oh my God. Anthony Jennings, who is not even an outside linebacker for a 43, and Daryl Simmons, who should not be starting at all. And they could use a defensive end. Wow, so the Jets have some holes here. We can do quite a few things with these guys. Let's see. Now, I think corner is needed, but I don't know if it's the top need now looking at it. Bronson Smart is definitely not an outside backer for like a 43. They don't need linemen, I know that. We could look at a guy like Daniel Harris or a guy like Danny Carmichael. What does he do? He's an actual end. This is the position they actually need, but they run a base 43, so they're going to need more of they need finesse, like a speed rusher. I don't know if they're going to do well with a power rusher there. He is. I think Bronson Smart is the move here for the Jets. Yep. I just think that Bronson Smart's going to end up being a better player than Daniel Harris. But Daniel Harris is like the only linebacker in the top part of this draft that is actually supposed to play in a 43. So this might be a spot where they have to go him. They have no linebackers aside from Thompson. Yeah. Yep, we're going to go Daniel Harris. It might be a little bit of a reach, but this is a huge need for the Jets right now. I didn't realize that they had all their linebackers leave via free agency. Daniel Harris. Okay, he ends up being normal, but look at the speed. 91 speed, 91 acceleration. We know he's got C-man end zone, so he's going to be helpful in a 43. A impact block to help in the run game. I think that's a good move. Is it the best move? I don't know. But I do know I think it was a good move. And now we're to the Patriots. The Patriots, this is where it started getting a little difficult because this is where, positions can be taken at any point. But this is also where I thought a corner should go. Rock Ya-Sin, 29 years old. After that, they pretty much fall off of a cliff. So we got to find somebody to do a little bit of running with Carlos German, their number one corner. So let's go ahead and let's take Eddie Bowen, who has pretty much fell down the draft board at this point. They have the Patriots on here twice. How does that work? All right, so apparently Eddie Bowen needs to go to New England. There we go, and he's hidden dev, 94 acceleration, 91 speed, 95 change of direction at 6'3", 210. This man is, wow, this is another one of those guys that I would, hit power. I got to see what's going on with this guy. That's insane. Okay, and now we are at the Browns. And I believe the Browns is where I suspect the other offensive linemen to start going. Do we really need offensive linemen to go here? They need a right tackle more than anything, but there's no right tackles available in this draft. So I think Dwayne Blake is the answer. Oh, there we go. Hidden dev, 85 strength, 80 excel. Not bad. And now it comes down to the Miami Dolphins. This is where I think it's time for us to take another D tackle. Raekwon Davis is 28 now. He's fallen down a little bit. PJ Hall is now 30. They have young guys at the linebacker position. They have a lot of good guys here, it looks like. Well, I mean, once Howard falls off, which who knows how long that is, they might need somebody, but Howard is really good still. So for that, let's go ahead and let's see. Do we have a D tackle on the board here soon? Right here, Ross Rush. Hidden Dev, 88 strength, 85 acceleration, and 76 speed. That's a nice pickup for the Dolphins. And now the Broncos are on the board. And I already know, I think, where I'm going with this pick. We're going to slide all the way down here. Yes, he is down the board a little bit. There we go. Hidden Dev quarterback. 92 throw power, 90 speed, 91 acceleration, 90 change of direction. Wow. That's going to be a game changer for Denver, I think. And I think I'm going to make him start for the first season. And then the last pick before us is the Eagles. Eagles, Eagles. And I'm not even sure what I want to do with our pick. Seriously, I have no clue what I want to do. I think I want to get more picks. So looking at the Eagles, what I came to the conclusion of is I think they need a corner. They have all of these old dudes and nobody behind them. Look at this. The only dude below 27 years old is a 71 overall. That is not good. Even their safeties need some assistance, but there's no real safeties needed here. But if we could get a corner that maybe is good at a little bit of both for them, you never know. They could go either way. Dextrell Patterson, Anthony Knight, Don Manning, Bronson Smart. I'm just naming names now, but Martin Mann. There's a lot of corners left. I think it's imperative that they take one of them. A press. Okay, that's impressive. Way faster. B hit power. I think we should go Don Manning. I mean, he's got A press, which is very, very important. He's got good size, 6'2", 197. Hell, he could probably even play safety. Almost 200 pounds. Yeah, I think we go Don Manning here for the Eagles. Let's do it. Hidden Dev, 95 speed, 95. Are you kidding me? Where are all of these corners are so fast? I want to see what his hit power is. I'm curious to see if this guy's got some ability to play safety. Like if he's got some tackle behind him. And that leaves us on the board. Again, I'm not sure where to go here on this pick. We can take a look here at the board, but we don't need corners. We definitely don't need an edge rusher. We could go for a guard, but now that we signed Tomlinson and we're not moving Nelson, does it make sense for me to spend a first-round pick on one this year? But at the same time, I mean, how many chances do we get to get quality linemen, a first-round guard here? I don't know if I really want to go after any of these guys. Braden Lennon, if I'm going to go after a receiver, I feel like I want a guy who's at least 6'3", 6'4". Yeah, I know. It's the same every time. I know. But it's me. I'm definitely not going after Tyler Wayne, 5'10". No, thank you. Morris Triplett is also another one here. We don't need D tackle. We don't need an end. It's just imperative. We just don't need one. Definitely don't need a running back. I just feel like we would be stupid not to trade back at this point. Unless we are dead set on taking him. But I'm going to tell you guys right now, I'm not even that against trading back into the second and taking Tyrone Bullard. I'm really not that against it. I really like the guy, and I think that it'd be a quality pick for us. Mike Haskins, I'm sure he's going to be a decent quarterback. But I'm not taking another dude who's going to stand still in the pocket. And looking at what Pritchard was, which was another guy that I was considering. Pritchard, 91 speed, 90 or 91 acceleration, 90 speed. That's insane for a quarterback. I want that. Can you imagine our offense if we had a guy that instead of just taking a sack like an idiot, took off and had 90 speed? Can you imagine that? I can imagine that because I have that in the RFL with DJ, Daryl Johnson. If you don't know who that is, look up the RFL, Relocation Football League. He's awesome. I'll be introducing you guys to that guy shortly. I know I'm crazy. I'm about to spend our top pick on a quarterback again. I don't want to pick him up here though. He's just not worthy of this pick. Now the question though is, can we find a trade partner? Who is up here that a team could really use right now? Right? You know what I'm saying? Like these corners. Who didn't take a corner early on that could still use one? Patterson, Knight, Bronson Smart, Sammy Terry, wide receiver. You know? Let's take a look. Okay, let's take a look at some trade options here. If we were to trade our first round pick, obviously we need a top end second, and we would need some other collateral picks. And the team that we would trade them to needs to have a reason to trade up. You know what I mean? Like, it's not just because I want their pick. They have to have a reason to trade up. Maybe there's some teams up top that needed a corner that didn't take one. Let's take a look and see. Oh boy, they actually could come up here for that guard. They really could. And the Colts need a guard too. Let's see how bad the Colts need a guard. Do the Colts need a guard? I think they do, because I already looked at this. Oh, yes, they do. Oh. So the Cardinals could try and trade up from their 4th spot to get our first round pick. What would be a good asking price for this pick? Because you got to remember, I'm going to automatically get this. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm going to get this pick. So I have to have a really good... Let me see. Is there... I'm going to try to do something here. It probably isn't the smartest, but I'm going to do it anyway. Okay, so... And I know this isn't perfect, but I'm just trying to find a way for me to, you know, try and do this for as fair as possible. You know? We do boom. We do that. What about a 4th? Okay, so what if I did a 2nd round pick, a 4th round pick, and a 5th? Okay, what do we think of that? What do we think of that? I'm trying to make this as even as possible. You know what I'm saying? Or if we want to do a 3rd, a 2nd and 3rd, I could also add something to it. So based off of Daddy Leagues, I could get a 2nd and a 3rd, and it's fine for my 1st. If I do the 6th, it's saying that I'm overpaying. But I don't think I am. So, I mean, even if they think it is, I don't care. I'm just going to give it my 6th. Yeah, so we're going to do 1st and the 6th for their 2nd and their 3rd. We're going to move back 14 spots. And we're going to pick up a 3rd round pick for doing so. The Cardinals are going to jump up above the Colts, who also need a guard. They're going to take the guard that we could take there, which is not an immediate need for us. So let's go ahead and do that. There we go. So now the Cardinals are on the clock. We fall back to the beginning of the 2nd round. And the Cardinals can now come up and get Sammy Terry to fill in the line that they really need some help with. Boom. Hidden Dev. Okay, now I feel like I should have taken him. But anyway, 87 strength. He'll be able to fit in very nicely. He's got some really good stats on him. A nice pick for the Cardinals. Nice pick for the Cardinals. Okay, and now it's the Colts, who I believe also may take a guard. And I believe there is one more available here. There is, Morris Triplet. Or do the Colts want to take a corner, since so many are falling? I think that we're going to do that. I think the Colts, you know, realizing that Sammy Terry's not there, they can't get the lineman that they could have used. They go ahead and they take what's best available, and that is a corner. There's so many guys left on the board here. Patterson and Knight were the guys that we were looking at before. I think we were going with Knight because he had a better build. So we're going to go with Knight again here over Patterson for the Colts. And another hidden dev, 94 speed, 93 speed, 94 acceleration. Another very fast, tall corner for the Colts to build around. Nice pick for the Colts. Okay, and now we have the Panthers on the board. The Panthers. The Panthers are another team that could use a corner. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to take Dextrell Patterson off the board here for the Panthers. I don't think that they could use an outside linebacker. They have a few guys there already. And they also run a 43 now, so that really wouldn't be too good for them. What about a receiver? No. Yeah, we are going to go Dextrell Patterson, the corner. Okay, normal. 91 speed, 92 acceleration. Can't be too mad at that. 95 change of direction. He's not as big as the other guys. And obviously he wasn't as fast, but if they're judging that off of, I mean, think about how many guys can be above 90 now. He was like 12th. He's got 91 speed. That's crazy. Okay, I think I know what we can do here for the Seahawks. They signed Trey Hendrickson, which was one decent move. They have good D tackles now. Their linebackers are pretty good. They do have some corners, so good thing, because the last, main one of the first round just went off the board, it seemed. So what we can do now for them is we can go ahead and let's take... Was there another guy? We can either do Danny Carmichael or we can do Bronson Smart. Now, if Smart is more of a... I wish they told us if they were... Oh, yes, he is a speed rusher, which is perfect because they run a 43. So we're going to go ahead and take Bronson Smart for the Seahawks. Hidden Dev, 83 speed, 91 acceleration. We'll drop him down to the line to take on, to be the defensive end there. Now we're up back to the Saints again. And now the Saints move back because I felt as if they could really benefit more from almost a running back. Alvin Kamara is on the last year of his deal. And everything else, they have pretty decent, they have some pretty good players elsewhere. So I think this is a good time for a running back to go off of the board. First one of the day. We're going to go ahead and we're going to take Julius Chambers as the player for the Saints to take over for Alvin Kamara after his contract is up. Oh, normal dev, but he's got 93 speed, 93 acceleration, and 90 agility to go along with 89 change of direction. The Chargers are on the board, and they as well need a running back. Austin Eckler is getting up there. He really is. He's 31. They have really nobody behind him. And while he's great, how long is he going to be good for? As much as I could say they could take another receiver here, no, maybe they could. Maybe they should. Ooh. Yeah, okay. I think the Chargers are going to go ahead and they're going to take a receiver. Now that I just saw that. They let Keenan Allen go. They need somebody to replace him. The question is, they have two big body guys. Do they take Braden Lennon or do they go after a guy like Tyler Wayne, who is more shiftier and more, that more of a slot type of role? Fourth, so he's got great speed. Tyler Wayne is the pick for the Chargers. Normal dev, but he's got 96 speed. That's a lot of speed right there. 96 agility, 91 change of direction. 49ers are on the board. Okay, and for the 49ers, I think we might go back to the cornerbacks. Because they have a few guys who are decent, but they're also older. So Martin Mann will be the pick for the 49ers. Normal dev, 91 speed, 92 acceleration. That brings on the Dallas Cowboys. Oh, yes. Yes. Guard is the spot, I believe, and they need a tackle. Okay. So let's go ahead and let's take Morris Triplett for... Yeah, I know he would have been a good fit for us. Probably would have been a really good fit, actually. Oh, man, what's his... Oh, my God, look at all of those stats. But I'm not trying to cheat the draft. I'm not going to try to hold off on a guy just because I want him. We could have probably got him later. This might be the last guard taken for a while, but I didn't realize the Cowboys were that bad off. And they get a hidden dev guard, of course. Dang it. All right. That puts us back to LA. Now, LA is a team that could use... They could use a corner. They could use a center. They could use a linebacker. They could use a D-end. But I went ahead and I drafted them a quarterback with their first pick. And now it might be time for us to come back around and get an end for them. Yeah, I think we go Danny Carmichael here for the Rams. Boom. Normal dev. Got good speed, good acceleration, good strength. Okay. And now the Washington football team. There's only a couple positions that they really need. I think Russ Blackwell is the choice here. They sort of have a luxury pick. They don't really need many positions, but they don't have anybody to really build up at the corner position. A lot of more veteran players. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to take them for the Washington football team. Okay, another hidden dev corner. This is a very strong class for corners. Washington ends up getting a very fast guy, a little bit smaller, but a pretty good pick at this point in the draft. And now it's down to the Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. This is a team that, again, they didn't have much money. They really didn't have much money to spend in free agency. This team is pretty much the same as it was before. They have a lot of talent on this team. There's not a lot of holes anywhere. One of the best lines. Well, really good defensive line. Honestly, I don't even know who they would take. Actually, you know what? Braden Lennon might be a really good pick here. They have a lot of veteran players. And now that they have a luxury pick, why not take a guy that's got some size and some decent speed to him? Once Miles Boykin gets up there, he's 28 now, I believe, 29. Tyler Boyd is up above 30. Yeah. So Braden Lennon will be the pick here. Okay, normal dev, 93 speed though for a 6'2 receiver. That's pretty darn good. That is pretty darn good at this point in the draft. And now the Raiders are back on the board. I wonder if Larry Gillisley, power moves and finesse moves. This is a guy right here. I bet you this guy can play outside. 6'2", 297. We can slide him outside since the Raiders play a 34. And he could slide inside when they don't need him there. 89 strength. Okay. So he'll be able to help them out in places. Nice. Now it is the Rams again. Their third pick already in this draft. And I'm not even sure where to go now. I think at this point, though, we do need to take a corner for them. They've had two good picks already. Let's go ahead and take Will Sutton here for the Rams and give them another nice piece for their defense. Giants are back on the board. They took a quarterback with their last pick. And this pick, I think what I'm going to do with the Giants is I'm going to get them ready for the future. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take a running back for them. Deontay King is sitting here. Saquon Barkley is very good, but who knows how long he's going to be good for. You always can never go wrong with two running backs, as we know ourselves. So let's go ahead and let's take Deontay King for the Giants. Hidden dev, 88 speed, 94 acceleration. We really don't need a quarterback, but man, I really want to draft him. Even if he ends up being our backup. I mean, the fact that he's a scrambler, it really makes me want to take him. And I'm just looking here, going down this list, we really don't need. Well, what about Jeremy Farley here? Second to third round. See, I just don't think it makes sense for us to drop that far back. This is my thought process here, okay? We do not need Marcus Givens. Even if I wanted to take a receiver, which I sort of do, I'm not taking one that's 5'10". We have two good defensive tackles. We have a bunch of defensive ends. We don't need a corner this high. We don't need an outside linebacker. Honest to God, the only player here that's even worth looking at to me is Tyrone Bullard. Which sounds crazy, guys. It does. I know it sounds crazy. But I mean, let's look at it from this point, right? We've seen what Hopkins can do in a sim. He looks amazing in the sim. We get him in an actual game. He plays like trash. He plays like trash. He does. It's stupid for me to even think about this. It really is. But you gotta also remember, we have him coming up soon on a contract. Do we want to take that contract again if he doesn't fit for us? If I can't get him out of that mode? Tyrone Bullard, who knows what he could be? He might end up being a star too. And a guy that can move for us in the pocket. No matter who I take. Let's see. Let's just take a look at Farley here. Farley is here, but he's a free safety, right? So he's not going to have as good as of run support stuff as what, the strong safeties are going to have. And let's look at the strong safeties once. Stephen Haynes is a guy we could go after, but he's rounds 2 to 3, right? Tyrone Bullard is literally the only guy in rounds 1 to 2 that I would like to try to take. Nobody else even sniffs it for me. Screw it. I don't care. This is my franchise. We're going to do it. We are just going to test the waters. It might backfire on us, but you know what? Then we can trade somebody. Tyrone Bullard, we're going to see what we can get out of a different quarterback. Okay, here goes probably the dumbest move I've made in this franchise so far. We're going to draft a quarterback in the second round. Okay, so he's hidden dev. Look at the speed. 90 speed, 90 acceleration. I don't even care. I want to see what this guy can do. I can't wait to see what he can do. Even if he's our backup, I don't care. We just drafted a quarterback. Okay, so now that we are here in the second round, we have 2 picks back to back. And you guys know that we need strong safeties, okay? One of the guys that I've been looking at is Stephen Haynes. And it looks like, looking at his stuff, solid, elite, solid, good, solid, decent. His skills, he has a couple of nice skills like pursuit and catching, and even his awareness. But then right below him is Nazir Ward. And now Nazir Ward is a guy that his tools were better. His ratings were better. Great, good, elite, great, great. I think that he might be a better fit for us. Looking at these two here. And I know that, 2 to 3rd, you'd think, well, obviously Haynes might. I'm not sure here. I just know that this guy is run support, okay? So Trayvon Lowry is run support. But his coverage is horrible. And his physicals are horrible. Solid, marginal, decent, solid. The only one that really stands out to me right here is Nazir Ward. And looking at his ratings, great, good, elite, decent jumping, whichever, great and great for speed and strength. And then looking at the skills that we've unlocked for him, he looks like an all-around safety. B awareness, B man coverage, A tackle, B hit power. We don't know his zone coverage, but if his man coverage is B, you gotta expect his zone coverage is around there somewhere. And to know that he can also hit, I mean, that's awesome. So I think what we're going to end up doing here is I think we're going to take Nazir Ward with our second round pick. Okay, we get a hidden dev. There we go. Hidden dev, Nazir Ward, 91 speed, 92 acceleration, 89 agility, 90 change of direction, 71 strength. I'm excited to see what he's got going for him. I like that pick. And we're right back up on the board thanks to our trade before. Wait, I don't even know how we got this pick. I know we got it somehow, but either way, we're back on the board here again. I don't know if we're going to take a player here or if we're going to try to trade this down. So what I think we're going to do here is we're going to try to look for a trade down partner here. And we are going to use Daddy Leagues again to decide our trades for us. I don't know what you guys think, but I think this might be a solid trade. So we trade back to about the mid-3rd. We pick up a 5th this year and a 4th next year for doing so. Daddy Leagues does list this as a fair trade. It says that it's very, very similar with, of course, me still giving up more. So it's pretty much gives them grades, like point grades, how many points is each part of the trade. So the more points you have, the better your trade is. And I'm losing points basically on these trades, is what it says to me anyway. I mean, I'm sure in real life, this kind of trade would involve like a 3rd and a 4th this year and like a 4th next year, 5th next year, something, considering it's a 2nd round pick. So I'm not trying to screw the computer over. And now the Patriots can come up here and they can get a receiver. Boom. There we go. Okay, so we are here now in round 3, pick 4 after our second trade back. And we have another pick again at the 11th spot in the 3rd round. And I'm trying to see who I should go with here. We have a safety. We drafted a quarterback. I still can't believe I did that, but I don't care, man. I'm so over Taylor Hopkins bullcrap. I hate how the sim makes him look like a beast, and then we get into an actual game and he can't win. So we're gonna see what happens there. Maybe it's a waste of a pick. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But one other spot, there's a couple more spots I'd like to hit. Corner, I would like to get a quarter. I just don't want to get one, I just didn't want to get one right this second. So let's take a look at the corners left. Dom Hendricks here from Ole Miss. 5'11", 207, 23 years old. Not a fan of that age. Justin Roberson. 23, but he is 6'3". Solid speed. Okay. D zone coverage. Okay, I'm not sure about that. Jerome DeBose from Florida State. He's 22. C-Man. Marginal speed. Okay, no. Earl Waddle out of Florida. 22, 6'1". Solid speed. Still 25th, 4.52. C tackle. We don't know much about his actual coverage skills. Floyd Beckwith from Buffalo. D man coverage, C coverage. Yikes. Good speed. Don't know. The stuff we do know isn't great. RJ Polk. DD. Oh man, I'm just not seeing anything here that I really want to target right now. What about middle linebackers? Darren Michaels. I think we already talked about him. F Pursuit. Well, that's not going to help much now, is it? F Pursuit. Okay. D tackle. That's sort of important for a linebacker. Devin Robbins. C tackle, C block shed. Solid speed. 5th overall for middle linebackers. D hit power. I mean, I guess I'm not too upset about just hit power. We don't need hit power with our players. Dion Lewis. C pursuit. Oh, okay. This was the guy who was first at linebackers. First at linebackers. So if he's first at linebackers, wasn't Harris like 90 speed? 91 speed? Wasn't he not 91 speed? That other linebacker that we drafted in the first round for another team? Let's see here. B finesse. I don't really need finesse moves. A awareness. That's nice. Please. C for play rec. C for pursuit. Man, that speed has me wondering. It has me wondering. And then Will Rogers is the last one before the day 3 guys. But he has decent speed. B impact block. Not much else. Man. My heart is telling me to go with Dion Lewis here. And then receiver is the other option as well. There's always options for receivers. So let's say Charles Thomas here. A catching. Okay, that's cool. Nice there. Good speed. 4.48. A catching. F medium route. Yikes. Well, he does have. I mean, he's a big body guy. So let's see. Niles Mann, 6 foot. No, I'm not taking a 6 foot guy. Just not going to do it. Brandon Jefferson. He's 6'2". That's not a bad size. He's 23. 4.53. Eesh. Solid speed. Let's see here. D break tackle. C short route. We don't really know much about him. JD Smith, 6'1". That's sort of pushing it. We'll check him out anyway. I just don't want to take a guy who's that short. We have guys like that if I'm going to take a receiver. So he's got good speed. D release, though. I'm not a fan of that. Ricky Sherman. He's 6. Okay, he's 6 foot. I'm not taking him. Devontae Craig. Nope, he's 6'2". Not taking him. Ralphie, definitely not. Kenny Williams. Okay, he's 6'4", and 197. I think our best bet at this point would be to take Dion Lewis, the middle linebacker. Yeah. That's the one guy that sort of stood out to me. He's a little bit on the shorter side, which I'm not a huge fan of, but that speed is definitely something I like in my linebackers. And who knows? I might, we don't know what we're going to get with Alexander yet. Maybe he stays, maybe he doesn't. And there really isn't much else we need. So let's go ahead and let's take Dion Lewis. We know how hard it is to come by these linebackers. There we go. Normal dev, 89 speed. How do you have better or lower speed than the other guy, but yet have the first one in? I'm confused, but either way, I still can't complain. 89 speed, 91 acceleration, 88 agility. Not bad at all for us. Wish you would have been a dev, but hey, it is what it is. I'm not really a fan of any of these guys right now. Oh man, this draft really sucks. Yeah, there's not really any need here at all for linemen. Even if there was any, I don't think there's any good ones left. Oh, we really don't need much this draft. We really don't. Sitting here, round 3, pick 11. There's only a few that I'm a fan of. And one of them, it's down really to 2 players. I sort of am okay with Jerome DeBose. 6'3", 208, 4'5'8". I'm not a big fan of his speed, though. Earl Waddle is another guy that I'm not completely against either. He's like a little bit better speed. But we just really, I don't know. And then Floyd Beckwith here. Floyd Beckwith, I mean, his man in his zone is horrible, but I guess I'm not sure what to expect because, I mean, everybody here, nobody has, if we know about it, they all have season Ds, you know, like nobody here has above that. So, and going off of that, I'm also just going to go off of age. And none of these guys are, the youngest guy here really is Floyd Beckwith. That's the youngest guy. He's 21. He has good size. I don't know. Hopefully the man in coverage, the man in zone is not that bad. He also has one of the fastest 40 times out of all of them too, which is a little weird considering they're all like 4.5 and above, but you know, it is what it is. So Floyd Beckwith, and he ends up being a hidden dev. And he has 92 speed. What the hell is wrong with this game? Why would it say he's got 4? This game is so broken, man. I mean, I'm happy. This is a good thing, but like, it's just so broken. 92 speed, and you say he's got. I mean, it said great speed or good speed. Like, oh, okay, now it makes sense because remember how many of these corners were like 95 speed and above. Okay, now I think I'm starting to catch on a little bit here. But we take Floyd Beckwith, the youngest guy available. And now our next pick is at the 25th pick. Looking up here, we don't need a quarterback. I'm not a fan of Niles Mann just because he's 6 foot. We already have guys that are like that. Darren Michaels, we already took a linebacker. Brandon Jefferson, what was my reasoning against him? Can't remember. There was something. I can't remember what. Maybe it was just because we didn't know much. I'm not sure. J.D. Smith. His release was D. That's what it was. For him anyway. We don't need an outside linebacker. We already took a safety. We don't need ends. We don't need a tackle. We took a corner. We don't need a running back. Don't need linebackers. We don't need a running back or corner. We already took our safety. We don't need tight ends. Dang, man. Like, how deep down do we have to go to find somebody? Honestly, I think I'm gonna take Kenny Williams. He's 6'4", 197. He reminds me of Jamarcus Means, who was a guy I was really actually wanted to trade for in the last season, but I couldn't do it. It didn't make sense. He does remind me of you know, that player, which Jamarcus Means was a tall, lanky guy. I think he was 6'4", 200. Yeah, something like that. And Kenny Williams, 6'4", 197. I don't know. I remember he had decent speed. I don't even know what to call decent speed anymore. I'm so confused by the way this game works things. Yeah, I think just going off of his body style alone, I think I'm just going to take Kenny Williams here. Dip into the day 3 guys a little bit here, ahead of the run on the day 3 guys. And there we go. 91 speed, 93 acceleration. Okay. All right. Not bad at all. That's really good for 6'4". Change of direction is 90. Here's a guy, Mike Lewis, left guard, that I just clicked on here. He's a top guard left. He's a day 3 guy. But he's got Bs across the board. For the... Look at this. B awareness, B impact block, B pass block, and B pass block power. Plus, he ranks pretty good in the combine, so I'm going to take him here. Okay, I'm not sure what he is, of course. He's normal, 86 strength. I like that, okay. There's a guy sitting here named Justice Bradshaw, day 3 guy. Don't know much about him, but I do know that he's got B zone coverage. So, I'm going to draft him. Okay, now it is time to see what we've got in the draft. It's been a very long draft. Well, I mean, at least for me. I've been doing this for about 3 or 4 hours now. So, hope it paid off. Let's go ahead and let's check out what we got. Okay, so we hit on a few guys here. Yes, we did. Tyrone Bullard is a 73 overall quarterback. Oh man, I'm excited. I am excited here. Let's see here. 80 short accuracy, 76 medium, 75 deep, 85 throw on the run, 79 break sack. Oh boy, I am excited right now. Nazir Ward is a 77. We finally hit on a safety. I was having this discussion with Mitchy Boy Gaming, the guy who was helping with the draft class, and he was helping me. I was going through some of the other teams, right? Like the other teams trying to come up with the best way to handle their offseason for free agency and making decisions on who to cut. And we saw a trend of me missing on like every safety that's ever been taken. If you look around this franchise, every team has a star safety, a young one, that I just completely whiffed on. I finally hit one. Nazir Ward. Let's see his ratings. 91 speed, 92 acceleration, 76 zone, 77 tackle, 80 pursuit, 80 hit power. I'm really liking this pick right now. Dion Lewis is also a 73. He's still normal, but he's 73 for pass and field general, 72 for run stopper, 86 hit power. Oh yes, there we go. That's what we needed. I wish his block shedding was a little bit better. Play rec needs some serious help. Zone isn't the worst. Not bad. Man is absolutely horrendous. Floyd Beckwith, corner. Okay. Maybe not as bad as I thought it was. They made it seem like he was going to have like absolutely horrible coverage, but he doesn't have too bad a coverage. Not bad at all. Awareness needs some serious help. Kenny Williams, this was a guy that ends up being much better than I thought he was going to be. 73 overall, 91 speed, 93 acceleration. Very, very good statistics coming out. 91 jumping, that's another huge stat. I'm really excited for him. I am super excited to see what we can do with him. Mike Lewis ends up being a 69. That's not too bad. Oh, and he's balanced. How many times do you see balanced linemen? A run block needs some serious work, but not bad at all for us to work with going forward. Justice Bradshaw was a total flop. 62 overall. Jalen Carter was not much better. 65 overall. Raheem Flemings. I just drafted guys at this point. I don't even think I even showed this. No, I didn't. I just simmed. I was so over it after the first like 8 picks. Let's see what the rest of the league has. Demar Thornton ends up being a 79 overall player. He is going to be a stud for Oakland. Oh, sorry, Las Vegas. 93, 94 speed. Adrian Collins ends up being a 75. Sean Stevenson's only a 72. So he ends up only being the 3rd best quarterback so far. Oh, God. Oh, man, we are changing that number. We are changing that. You are not wearing number 24, guy. Oh, my God. They have no numbers available. I hate this game. We'll fix that. Trayvon Mcbride, a 71. Joey Harrison, only a 73. Dorian Peak, a 78 for the Lions. Dwyer, a 70. Pickett, 74. Pounds, a 74. Colvin, a 74. Williamson, a 73. Jake Burns, 76. A lot of good players here. Eddie Bowen ended up being a 75. This is the guy I wanted to see if he had any tackling, right? Yeah. Let's see. No, not really. 69 tackle. I mean, that's not too bad. Parker Pritchard ended up being a 72, so tied with, what's his name? And Don Manning, 76. Wow. That was the guy who was like 6'2", right? Yeah, 6'2", 95 speed. Dang. Sammy Terry ended up being a 73. Anthony Knight, a 74. Dextrell Patterson, the guy that I passed over because of what his what's his name, like his stuff said. He ends up being one of the best corners. That's funny. Julius Chambers is a 75 right out of the box for the Saints. Well, there we have it, guys. We finally finished the offseason. It's been a very, very long video. It's been a very long time for me to get this done. Next time out, we'll have our preseason. We'll get a chance to see these young guys play for the first time, and we'll get a chance to see how our players stack up against some of the competition. I know we'll see some of the same teams we did last year, but overall, good offseason. Not as exciting this year just because we had a lot of holes filled already, but we got a lot of fun stuff to look forward to. So thank you guys for watching. Leave me a like, subscribe, turn that bell notification on so you know every time I upload a video, and I'll see you guys next time.